The assignment. Dr. Hyun walked through the sterile corridors of Research Station Kepler, his footsteps echoing softly against the metal flooring. 2 years aboard this floating laboratory had taught him many things about alien psychology, but nothing had prepared him for the message waiting on his terminal that morning. Report to Commander Hyun immediately. Priority Alpha. The commander's office overlooked the vast expanse of space through reinforced transparent steel windows. Commander Hyun, a tall Zalarian with distinctive blue skin and silver eyes adapted for her species' three-sun homeworld, gestured for him to sit. Dr. Hyun, we have a situation. She activated her holographic display, and an image materialized, a small, humanoid creature with armor-like skin that shifted between dark red and orange hues. Subject Omega. Found 3 months ago in a derelict escape pod near the Andromeda Gate. Hyun studied the image. The creature appeared childlike but alien, with elongated limbs and that remarkable color-changing skin. What's the situation? It won't allow contact with any species. 12 different research teams have tried. Dr. Kell attempted telepathic communication and was hospitalized for a week from psychic feedback. 3 others have been physically injured. The hologram shifted to show video footage of the creature in a containment room, pressed against the wall, its skin flashing bright warning colors as researchers approached. The fear in its posture was unmistakable. The Council has given us 1 month, Commander Hyun continued. If we cannot establish meaningful contact or determine its needs, they will authorize termination. Termination? Hyun's voice carried a note of disbelief. The creature is deteriorating. It barely eats, shows signs of severe psychological distress. The Council considers it a failed contact scenario. She leaned forward. I've reviewed your file, Dr. Hyun. Your work with traumatized animals on Earth, your success rate with damaged creatures that others had given up on. You're our last option. Hyun looked at the frozen image of the terrified creature. What makes you think I'll succeed where telepaths and empaths have failed? Because you're human. You don't have telepathic abilities that might overwhelm it. You can't accidentally invade its mind or project emotions it might interpret as threats. Sometimes, Dr. Hyun, our limitations become our greatest strengths. He thought of the abandoned animals he'd rehabilitated on Earth, creatures that had been hurt, frightened, written off by others. What are my parameters? Complete autonomy. No observers unless you request them. No time restrictions on your sessions. But understand, Dr. Hyun, this creature has already hurt people. If it injures you, I understand the risks. He stood, accepting the thick file she offered. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. Dr. Miri will brief you on safety protocols. As he reached the door, Commander Hyun called after him. Dr. Hyun, why did you accept so quickly? He paused, thinking of every frightened animal he'd ever helped, every creature that had learned to trust again. Because everyone deserves someone who refuses to give up on them. That night, Hyun read through every report, every failed attempt, every documentation of the creature's responses. One detail stood out: despite its aggressive behavior toward researchers, it had never actually made contact. Every injury occurred when people got too close and it panicked, not from any calculated attack. Tomorrow, he would meet Subject Omega. Tomorrow, he would try to do what no other species had managed: bridge the gap between fear and trust. First contact. Dr. Miri met Hyun outside the security elevator, her weathered face creased with concern. I've worked with traumatized beings for 15 years, she said as they descended to the containment level. Nothing has prepared me for this one. The corridor leading to Subject Omega's quarters was lined with warning signs in multiple languages. Dr. Miri stopped at the reinforced door, her hand hovering over the access panel. Remember the protocols: no sudden movements, no attempts at physical contact, and if its skin turns bright red, back away immediately. That's its extreme distress signal. She activated the viewer. Look first. Through the small window, Hyun saw a room larger than he'd expected. Soft lighting, comfortable furnishings, and in the far corner, a small figure huddled against the wall. The creature, Subject Omega, sat with its knees drawn up, its skin a dull gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "It knows we're watching," Dr. Miri whispered. "Always knows." The creature's head turned slightly toward the door, and Hyun caught a glimpse of large, dark eyes that seemed far too old for such a small being. "I'll be monitoring from the observation station," Dr. Miri said, opening the door. "Take your time. Don't force anything." Hyun stepped into the room, and the door sealed behind him with a soft pneumatic hiss. Immediately, the creature's skin shifted from gray to orange, then to yellow, warning colors that pulsed like a heartbeat. Instead of approaching, Hyun did something that surprised even himself. He sat down in the center of the room, cross-legged, and simply waited. The creature watched him intently, its breathing rapid and shallow. Minutes passed. Hyun remained motionless, his own breathing slow and steady. Gradually, the creature's skin began to shift back toward gray, though flecks of yellow remained. After what felt like an hour, Hyun slowly reached into his pocket and withdrew his meal ration, a simple protein bar and water. He opened the packaging with deliberate, visible movements, then began to eat. The creature tilted its head, watching this mundane activity with fascination. When Hyun finished, he placed the empty wrapper beside him and leaned back against the wall. The creature's breathing had slowed, and the last traces of yellow faded from its skin. "I'm not going anywhere," Hyun said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to be afraid." The creature didn't respond, but its posture relaxed slightly. For the first time in 3 months, Subject Omega wasn't pressed against the wall in defensive terror. Hyun spent the rest of the day simply being present. He didn't try to communicate, didn't attempt to approach. He just existed in the same space, proving that sometimes the greatest kindness was simply refusing to be another threat. As the artificial day cycled dim to evening, Hyun stood slowly. The creature tensed, its skin flickering with warning colors, but when Hyun moved toward the door instead of toward it, the colors faded. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said softly, and meant it. Outside, Dr. Miri waited with unconcealed amazement. "In 15 years, I've never seen it remain calm for more than a few minutes with anyone in the room. You stayed for 6 hours." "It's just the beginning," Hyun replied, already planning tomorrow's approach. "Trust takes time." But as he walked back to his quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that those ancient eyes had been trying to tell him something important that everyone had been too afraid to hear. Part 3, Building Trust. 3 weeks had passed since Hyun began his daily visits with Subject Omega. What had started as silent coexistence had gradually evolved into something approaching communication. The creature, whom Hyun had privately begun calling Echo due to its habit of mimicking his movements, had developed a routine. Each morning, it would watch from its corner as Hyun entered, settled in his usual spot, and shared his breakfast. The skin color displays had become more nuanced. Hyun learned to read the subtle differences between cautious gray, curious blue-green, and the rare moments of what might have been contentment, a soft, silvery hue. "You're making progress," Dr. Miri observed during one of their briefings. "The creature's stress indicators have dropped significantly. It's eating regularly now, and the medical scans show improved health." But Hyun sensed something deeper happening. Echo had begun moving closer during their sessions, no longer pressed against the wall. Sometimes it would sit only a few meters away, those intelligent eyes studying Hyun with unmistakable curiosity. On the 24th day, something changed. Hyun was sharing his midday meal when Echo stood up, the first time it had moved from its sitting position while he was present. Its skin rippled with nervous green patterns as it approached the table where food was delivered. "It's okay," Hyun said softly, remaining perfectly still. Echo reached toward the extra meal ration Hyun had requested, its movements hesitant. When its fingers touched the package, it looked at Hyun as if asking permission. Hyun nodded slowly. For the first time in over 3 months, Echo ate while someone else was in the room. "I think it's trying to show trust," Hyun reported to Commander Hyun that evening. But there's something else. The way it watches me, the way it responds to specific words, I think it understands more than we realize. The linguistic specialists have been analyzing the sounds it makes, Commander Hyun replied. They believe it's attempting rudimentary communication, but in a language unlike anything in our databases. What if it's not trying to learn our language? Hyun asked. What if it's trying to teach us its own? The next morning brought a breakthrough that would change everything. As Hyun settled into his routine, Echo did something unprecedented. It moved to sit directly across from him, maintaining eye contact. Its skin began to display patterns Hyun had never seen before, complex spirals of blue and silver that seemed to pulse with intention. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Echo spoke its first word in Standard Galactic. Hungry. The word was perfectly pronounced, but it wasn't about food. Echo touched its chest, then pointed at Hyun, repeating, hungry. Hyun felt his heart skip. You're hungry, for connection. For someone to understand. Echo's skin flashed brilliant silver, the first time Hyun had seen such a vibrant, positive display. It nodded, then spoke again. Alone. Long time alone. The breakthrough came with a flood of emotion that nearly overwhelmed Hyun. This wasn't just a frightened creature, it was a child who had been drifting in space for years, completely isolated, watching everyone it encountered flee in fear. Not alone anymore, Hyun said firmly. Never alone again. Echo's skin settled into the most beautiful pattern Hyun had witnessed, soft blues and greens swirling together like a peaceful ocean. For the first time in months, Subject Omega smiled. Outside the observation room, Dr. Miri wiped tears from her eyes. It's not just learning to trust, she whispered into her recorder. It's learning to hope. But with communication came revelation, and Hyun sensed that Echo had much more to tell him, stories that might explain why it had been alone in space, and why its very presence seemed to terrify other species. The truth revealed. Over the following weeks, Echo's language skills developed with startling speed. What had begun as single words evolved into full sentences, and with them came the story that explained everything. My people, Echo said during one of their sessions, its skin displaying deep purple patterns that Hyun had learned indicated sadness, we feel too much. Other beings' emotions, thoughts, pain, all of it becomes ours. Hyun listened intently as Echo explained. Its species, the Kalari, were natural empaths, but unlike other telepathic races, they couldn't control what they received. Every emotion from nearby beings flooded into them without filter. That's why the researchers got hurt, Hyun realized. When they tried to make telepathic contact, you were already feeling everything they felt, amplified. Echo nodded. Their fear became my fear. Their frustration became my anger. I could not make it stop. Its skin flickered with remembered anguish. But you, it looked at Hyun with wonder, you are quiet inside. Peaceful. For the first time in so long, I can just be myself. The full tragedy of Echo's situation became clear. The Kalari had been a peaceful species, but their empathic abilities made them vulnerable. When a plague of madness swept through their sector, a psychic contagion that drove beings to rage and violence, the Kalari absorbed it all. My family put me in the escape pod, Echo whispered. They said I was too young, that maybe I could survive until I learned to shield myself. But the pod malfunctioned. I drifted for 3 years, feeling only the emptiness of space. Commander Hyun, who had been listening to the recorded sessions, called an emergency meeting. This changes everything. If the Kalari were wiped out by this psychic plague, Echo might be one of the last of its kind. There's more, Hyun said. Echo has been trying to tell me about something else. Something about why the plague started. During their next session, Echo's revelation shook the foundations of everything they thought they knew about the galactic community. The plague was not natural, Echo said, its skin displaying patterns of deep red mixed with black, colors Hyun had never seen before, radiating fear and anger. It was made. Created by beings who wanted to remove species like mine from the galaxy. Who? Hyun asked, though he dreaded the answer. The ones who call themselves the Pure Council. They believe telepathic species are dangerous, unnatural. They created the plague to destroy us, then blamed it on natural causes. The implications were staggering. If Echo was telling the truth, a shadow organization within the galactic community had committed genocide against multiple empathic species. We need to report this to the Galactic Council, Dr. Miri urged during the briefing. With what proof? Commander Hyun asked. The testimony of a traumatized child of an extinct species. But Echo had more to reveal. I know where they meet, it told Hyun. I felt their thoughts when they came to check if any Kalari survived. They do not know about me, but I know about them. Hyun realized they were at a crossroads. Echo wasn't just a lost child needing care, it was potentially the key witness to one of the greatest crimes in galactic history. What do you want to do? Hyun asked Echo. You don't have to be alone anymore, but this choice is yours. Echo's skin cycled through multiple colors before settling on a determined silver blue. I want to stop them. So no other children have to float alone in space, feeling nothing but emptiness. As Hyun looked at this small, brave being who had endured more than anyone should have to, he made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Then we'll stop them together. But first, there's something I need to teach you. What? How to be a child again. How to play, how to laugh, how to trust that someone will always be there for you. Hyun smiled. You've been strong for too long. Let me be strong for you now. For the first time since Hyun had known it, Echo's skin blazed with pure, joyful gold. And in a voice filled with wonder and hope, it spoke the words that would become the foundation of their new family. Thanks, Boss Dad. New beginnings. 6 months after that first terrifying meeting, Research Station Kepler had become a very different place. The transformation wasn't just in the station's youngest resident, it was in everyone who had witnessed the miracle of trust overcoming fear. Echo, now officially adopted as Hyun's ward, had grown in ways that amazed everyone. Its skin, once trapped in the gray tones of depression and fear, now displayed a full spectrum of healthy emotions. Joy manifested as golden spirals, contentment as gentle blues, and excitement as dancing silver patterns that seemed to laugh with light. The Galactic Council has accepted our evidence, Commander Hyun announced during the morning briefing. Echo's testimony, combined with the data from the escape pod, has led to the arrest of 12 members of the Pure Council conspiracy. The investigation had moved swiftly once Echo found the courage to share its memories. The psychic plague that had destroyed the Kalari and 3 other empathic species was indeed artificial, a bioweapon designed to target telepathic neural pathways. The conspiracy had been vast, but it crumbled when confronted with the truth. More importantly, Commander Hyun continued, the Council has established the Echo Protocol, new guidelines for first contact with traumatized beings, based on Dr. Hyun's methods. But the greatest changes were personal. Hyun had moved to larger quarters to accommodate his new family member. Echo had its own room, filled with toys and books from dozens of worlds, gifts from crew members who had come to adore the station's youngest resident. Boss Dad, Echo said one morning, its skin displaying the excited silver patterns that had become its signature expression of happiness, I had the dream again. The good dream or the scary dream? Hyun asked, though he already knew from Echo's coloring. The good one. I dreamed I wasn't the only one. That somewhere, other Kalari children survived. It was a hope they both shared. The galaxy was vast, and if one escape pod had drifted for years undetected, perhaps others had made it to safety. Echo had become the focal point for a galaxy-wide search, using its unique neural patterns to help identify other survivors. Dr. Hyun, Dr. Miri approached with a tablet displaying an urgent message. We've received a signal from the outer rim. It matches Echo's biosignature patterns. Echo's skin blazed with anticipation. Others? Possibly. But it's 3 weeks away at maximum warp. We go, Echo said firmly, then looked at Hyun with the trust that had become the foundation of their relationship. Together? Together, Hyun confirmed, feeling the familiar warmth of pride and love that had replaced his old loneliness. The journey to the outer rim became an adventure. Echo delighted in the ship's routines, learning about navigation, helping in the hydroponics bay, and charming the crew with its endless curiosity. Its empathic abilities, no longer a source of pain, had become a gift for understanding others' needs. When they finally reached the coordinates, they found not one but 5 Kalari survivors, children who had been hidden in various refuges throughout the sector. The reunion was a symphony of color as Echo's skin cycled through every hue of joy, relief, and wonder. "They're like me," Echo whispered, watching the other young Kalari play together for the first time in years. "They feel everything, but they're not afraid anymore." The Kalari children would need homes, families, and the same patient care that had helped Echo heal. But now there was a template for success, a model that other species could follow. "The Council wants to establish a new research station," Commander Hyun informed them. "A place specifically designed for helping traumatized beings of all species. They want you to head it, Dr. Hyun." Hyun looked at Echo, who was teaching a younger Kalari child how to make patterns with its skin that looked like flowers. "What do you think, Echo? Ready to help other kids who are scared and alone?" Echo's skin bloomed with the golden patterns of pure happiness. "We help everyone, Boss Dad. No one should be alone." As Hyun watched his adopted child, this remarkable being who had survived the impossible and chosen love over fear, he realized that sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't about understanding alien species. Sometimes they were about understanding the infinite capacity for hope, healing, and family that existed in every heart willing to open itself to another. The new research station would be called Echo's Haven, and it would become a beacon of hope throughout the galaxy. A place where the lost could be found, where the broken could heal, and where the simple act of refusing to give up on someone could change everything. Years later, when Echo had grown into a confident young adult helping other traumatized beings find their way home, it would still call Hyun Boss Dad, with the same love and trust that had begun their journey together. And in the vast, sometimes lonely expanse of space, 2 souls who had found each other continued to prove that family wasn't about species or biology, it was about choosing to care for each other, no matter what. The end.